Will start at 6 p.m. and will be hosted by Hudson Media Group and moderated by veteran political reporter Al Sullivan. This debate will be televised in addition to being available online and thus give all Bayonne residents the best opportunity to hear directly from the candidates. Our understanding from the debate host is that all three candidates have confirmed their attendance. Mayor Davis looks forward to discussing his record and his vision for Bayonne's future. The Davis campaign has never agreed to any other proposed debate. So that's where we stand this evening. I probably sent out an email. I think it was March 3rd the first time I tried to engage both campaigns, all three campaigns. We're invited. I worked with them all the way through just before the Easter holiday, and it just didn't work out. But we're going to move forward, obviously. Thank you, Dr. Brown, and thank you, Council President, for giving us your time, and we'll get started in a couple minutes. Thank you. Okay, looks like everybody's situated, so I think we might as well get moving. So just for those of you that may not have heard about the format, what we're going to do is for the intro, we have a little extra time, so we'll give our candidates up to 2 minutes just to introduce themselves to you guys and to everybody watching at home. And from there, when we're going to do the Q&A, which will obviously be the majority of this evening, we'll let them do approximately a minute each with a 30-second rebuttal. But, given that there's two candidates, we have a little time to play with. We have until about 8:30. So we're going to try to give them a little leeway throughout the evening. And as we approach probably about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what the game flow, so to speak, will be like, I'll allow residents from the audience to ask a couple questions. Of course, with the understanding and the caveat that we're going to keep this policy-based and campaign-based discussion. So without further ado, we're going to hear from the candidates, and we'll start with Dr. Brown for your introduction.
Thanks for everybody that showed up tonight. I appreciate everybody that actually came, and I appreciate Council President Nadrowski actually coming as well. And obviously, the mayor is very conspicuous by his absence tonight. But nevertheless, we'll take center stage and give the mayor his time out over there. My name is Mitchell Brown. I'm a physician here in Bayonne. I practice internal medicine and geriatric medicine here on Broadway. I have an office. I also live in Bayonne, obviously. My house is about a block away from my office. I've been in Bayonne practicing here for about 25 years. I'll be getting a call from the hospital right now. I'm board certified in internal medicine and geriatrics. I'm on staff. I've been on staff at Bayonne Hospital for the past 25 years. I've been president of the medical and dental staff at Bayonne Hospital a couple terms. I'm also an attorney. I graduated Rutgers Law. I've acted as an attorney for the staff of Bayonne Hospital at certain times for certain issues. And I'm looking forward to being the mayor. So I hope I have everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Council President. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. I'd like to, thank John and Daniel for putting this on. You've done the last two mayoral debates here in this forum, and a number of school board debates here for Bayonne. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank Dr. Brown for showing up. I'd like to thank all the residents that took time out of their busy schedule to come here. This is an important election for Bayonne, and it's great to see people engaged and caring about their community. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sharon Ashe-Nadrowski. I am born and raised in Bayonne. I live here with my 3 children. I say children, but they're all adults, but they still live at home, and it's not for the cooking. So I ran for city council 8 years ago, back in 2014. I decided to run at that time because Bayonne was stagnant and, debt was sky high. When we ran, our first administration, we settled the lawsuit that was holding back development down at the base. And, that's what allowed us to move forward and get our debt under control. And we also, we did a good job. We renovated a lot of parks and refurbished them. And, I'll have to say, I'm proud of our first 4 years as council. And then I decided to run for re-election in 2018, thinking that we were going to continue down that same path with the same ideals. But shortly into our second term, something went very wrong. City Hall is broken. And, but together, we can fix City Hall. We can fix the problems. We can bring back open, honest, transparent government. We can make our government proactive instead of reactive. We can have government that actually allows and encourages community participation. We need government that actually provides the basic services, such as picking up our garbage, fixing our potholes, providing a safe community, figuring out our parking situation. It's time.
Start wrapping it up, Council President.
And it's time for, Bayonne to take care of Bayonne. And that's why I'm running here for mayor of Bayonne.
All right, thank you. So let's start with a relatively open-ended question here. And we'll start with the Council President, and of course, that Dr. Brown can respond. So when you're looking at the next 4 years of the Peninsula City, you just spoke a little bit about what was going on the base. How does responsible development look to you, and how would you facilitate that through the next term?
Thank you, John, for that question. We all know that development's a really hot topic here in Bayonne. We have done a lot of development, and like I said in my opening, that development was necessary. The base is now fully functioning part of Bayonne. It's booming. And, now it's time where we can now dictate more. Redevelopment plans, they are the city's plans. They're what the city wants. And we need to include the city, and that means the residents of Bayonne in on those conversations. We need to have the residents to have a seat at the table in the beginning of the process. And that's a big part of what my administration would look like. Currently, right now, when meetings come out and plans are happening, the New Jersey law requires to only notice 200 feet from a planned development. I plan on changing that to 1,000 feet because let's face it, these developments impact a lot more than 200 feet. The quality of life goes way beyond that. And the more people that are involved, the better. The more people that are involved, the sooner in the process, the better the plans are. And we also have to start demanding more from our developers. We nearly don't ask enough for them. They come here and prosper in Bayonne, but they need to make sure that the rest of Bayonne prospers right alongside of them. We need to hold them accountable, and they need to be more responsible for our schools. They need to contribute to, off-site improvements as well as on-site improvements.
Thank you. And, Doctor, what do you think about that?
Well, I think the first thing that's important to note is that development has been occurring in Hudson County for 20, 30 years now. If you look at everywhere from Guttenberg down to Jersey City, along the coast, there's been really good development. And the only place where development has been pretty lagging behind and horrible has been here in Bayonne. The development deals that Jimmy Davis and Sharon Nadrowski have made over the past 8 years have been horrible for the city of Bayonne. Okay? The developers have gotten huge tax abatements. They've given nothing back to the city. They haven't contributed to what they were supposed to do in terms of contributing to affordable housing funds. Developers should be made to provide green spaces, contribute to community assets like recreational centers. They shouldn't be getting these abatements, and development should occur here in the city of Bayonne. We've only seen development going on by the waterfront, by the MOT, while Broadway is blighted. There are vacant storefronts. There are stores that are going out of business, okay? Developers have gotten so many shady deals in this town under Davis and Nadrowski. That has got to stop. Okay, we need to see development in the heart of Bayonne where people and the voters live. Okay, we need to see the storefronts come alive. We need to see responsible development.
10 seconds.
Okay, I'll stop right there.
Thank you. Any rebuttal, Council President?
Yes, thank you, Don. I'd just like to say, you're right. I was part of that administration, and we did give pilots out. And in the beginning, that was an absolutely necessary tool. As you stated, development had been happening up and down Hudson County, north and south of us, but it had not been happening in Bayonne. We needed to use pilots as a tool. It was happening in those other areas because they were using those tools. They were incentivizing. Jersey City did it. Hoboken did it. They all incentivized the developers to come there. So it was a necessary tool, but I do agree to some extent that we did not get what now that we are approving concept and people are now, fighting to come here, it is time to ask the developers, and we have changed that. I know Mayor Davis, decided not to come here tonight and answer things, but the truth be told, every single pilot offer that comes to the city of Bayonne, before it gets to the council, it comes to through the mayor's office, and it comes to the council with a letter of recommendation for consideration that is signed by the mayor.
10 seconds.
And those recommendations that came in, they would be all 30 years and with nothing going to the school. As president of that council, we changed that. We changed them pilots and made them give 5% to the schools, and then we increased it to 10% of the schools, and we also reduced the number of years from they would come in at 30 years, we're down to 15 years.
Anything further, Doc, or would you like to move on?
Well, we know 8 years ago, Davis and Nadrowski promised that developers would contribute to affordable housing funds. No affordable housing has come up in Bayonne. We know that they were supposed to contribute to community centers and things like that. They were supposed to do a lot of things, and all they've gotten is 30-year tax abatements. Many of them aren't even making their pilot payments, and the city has done nothing to collect. This is something that the city council president should be addressing and should have been addressing over the past 8 years, but has not. The deals that have been made have been rubber stamped by the city council for the past 8 years. They've been horrible deals. A lot of them have been smelly deals, okay? And this has got to stop in Bayonne. And the only way to do it is to change. We need to change what's going on in City Hall. We need to change the leadership in City Hall now.
Thank you. Anything further on this topic?
No, I just want to say that, as I stated before, City Hall is broken, and it's broken starting in the mayor's office. As a council, we passed the laws. We required those payments to be made, and if they're not being collected, that sits with the mayor. That's his job, and that is why I'm sitting up here, because he is not doing his job.
Thank you. Ready to move on, or you have one last point?
Sure, let's move on.
So let's talk a little bit about affordable housing, which we just touched on for a moment there. We'll start with Dr. Brown this time. So when you look at the Section 8, when you look at the Housing Authority, and you look at how that's being run throughout the city, what do you think could be better, and what do you think could be fixed? And also, what do you think is moving well that you would like to stick with heading into a 4-year term if elected?
Well, first of all, we have to get the developers to contribute to an affordable housing fund. There are obviously federal and state programs that would also support affordable housing in the city of Bayonne. I don't know that the City Hall has been competent enough to reap the benefits of all the federal and state programs that are available to put up affordable housing in Bayonne, okay? And what we've seen here, because of the lack of affordable housing, because nobody's contributing to an affordable housing fund, because the budget is such in City Hall that every dollar goes to municipal payroll, okay? There's no money for affordable housing in Bayonne. And what you have is, what you've seen is an increasing homeless problem here. Okay? People don't have affordable housing in Bayonne. The past 8 years, we've seen nothing in affordable housing. We've seen no contributions from developers. We've seen no aggressive reaping of federal and state programs to support affordable housing. And we've seen no affordable housing. We've seen increased homeless people on our streets. That's all we've seen from Davis and Nadrowski administration.
And Council President?
So, as I outlined on my website, Sharon for Bayonne, I put out Solution Sundays, a series of 6 Sundays with solutions, and I did outline my affordable housing, making Bayonne affordable. We all agree that, Bayonne is becoming less and less affordable, and, everyone should be able to afford to live where they work. And one of my plans is for workforce housing, which is, geared towards like your firefighters, your teachers, and your police officers that are first coming on the job, where they haven't made it to that step in their salary, where they're, making enough money to live where they work. And we need to ensure that. And to do that, we need to ask for more from our developers. But we also need to think outside the box. We need to look to federal and state funding. There are resources out there to help us get there. We need to make sure that developers are paying into the Affordable Trust Fund. And I will also add, as far as public housing with the Housing Authority is sitting on $22 million from the sale of housing. And the mayor at our last election in 2018, he touted to the seniors that they were going to get that bill built, and it's still not built. I'm not part of those negotiations. I'm not invited into that back room where that conversation happens. But I'll tell you, when I'm mayor, that conversation will happen out in public where everyone can see it and be part of it.
All right, very good, Dr. Brown. Would you like to add anything?
No.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll just keep on rolling. Let's talk a little bit about public safety. So, obviously it's been a tough couple years for everyone. That certainly includes our firefighters and our police department. So when we're looking at promotions, when we're looking at new hires, when we're looking at safety equipment and upgrades at those facilities, what do you think the next 4 years holds for public safety in Bayonne if you're elected? And we'll start with the council president this time.
Thank you, John. That's a real important issue here in town. And, first and foremost, I'd just like to say our public safety in Bayonne, cops, firemen, they're the best in the state. They do the best, and, we couldn't ask for more of them. But what we can do is there are underlying issues that, add into the crime here. And, we have to recognize those underlying issues, and we have to do crisis intervention, and we have to get back to the basics. Socioeconomic issues lead to a lot of the crimes. We have a lot of, mental health, housing inequities, and education deficiencies that lead to these things. And we need to start partner with our nonprofit social groups to allow the police to do intake with them. And, this is about mitigation of these crises before they happen. That's a big part of it. And it's about, that makes the police job easier. And also another part of that would be, like I said, making sure our police are trained and have all the resources that they need so they can do their job as best as they can. Community policing is a big part of it. And, we do that. We need to, just re-up on that. And we need to maybe make police visibility more, maybe redeploy the assets we have, and have more community initiatives to our police. So our police, our residents in the community get to know the police officers that are there to keep them safe.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, these are the same old promises we've been hearing for the past 8 years, that there's going to be community policing, that the streets are going to be safer. The streets aren't safer. I have patients that are monitoring police scanners. There's crime going on in the city that isn't reported. There's a lot of things going on, and we don't see the police on the streets. There is no community policing that we've been promised for 8 years. Okay? I'm going to deliver community policing. The only police that I see on the streets in Bayonne are sitting next to construction sites watching people dig holes. Okay? I don't see the police as a presence on our streets. In terms of public safety, let's fix the roads. Let's get we've been promised more people have died crossing Route 440 than have died in crime and fire in this town. Let's get that pedestrian bridge over 440 that we've been promised for the past 8 years. That'll be a step toward public safety. Okay? Nothing that was promised 8 years ago has been delivered. Nothing that's being promised today will be delivered either unless there's a change. And that's all I have to say.
Council President, take further on that point.
Yeah, I'd like to add, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, the council, we did our job. We funded those bridges. The funds for those bridges crossing 440 have been there. They have been there for a number of years. The pedestrian bridge has been fully funded. The money is there. The plan has been approved. The design has been approved. The only thing that is missing is the job of the mayor in fulfilling that. It's on the administration. I'm sure everyone here, if you don't know, the council is a legislative body. We make the laws, we get the funding in place, we prove everything. But the administrative side, that solely sits with the mayor. And that's when I say City Hall is broken. It's the mayor's office that's not doing his part.
Doc, anything further?
Yeah, I mean, the council as an administrative body has some control. It's not like, they have no power to do anything, just because Jimmy Davis doesn't want to do something. I mean, I just don't go for this, well, it's because Jimmy Davis didn't do this or Jimmy Davis didn't do that. They're a team. They've been a team for 8 years. They're two sides of the same coin. They've been two peas in a pod for the past 8 years, and all of a sudden we see this fractionation of their, of their government before an election cycle. I just don't believe it.
All right, anything further, Council President?
No, I'd just like to say, this fraction had came a while ago, and that is the reason I'm up here, because the communication between the council and the mayor's office had stopped. And there really is no power. It is the separation of powers, right? The legislative, the judicial, the administrative side. So we don't get to tell the departments what to do. All we get to do is fund and pass the laws. It is strictly up to the administrative side to carry them out. And when I'm the mayor, they will be carried out.
I mean, in any political arena, even if there's an administrative side and there's a legislative side, there is quid pro quo. You don't have to pass everything the mayor wants if he's not going to do what you want. So there is some quid pro quo in government. There are checks and balances. There are negotiations between parties. It's not like there's two independent branches of government that can't work together over the past 8 years. And, so that, to me doesn't really fly. I don't think it'll fly for the people of Bayonne.
All right, great. All right, so let's move on, guys, and we'll go back to Dr. Brown to start on this one. So, there hasn't been a ton of discussion about it recently, but I think good a time as any to talk about the future of the Bayonne Medical Center. So it's no secret that BMC Hospital LLC and Hudson Regional Hospital of Secaucus both want to be the owners as opposed to CarePoint Health, who was trying to get out. They went to a nonprofit status. There's been hearings at the state. I'm pretty sure everyone in this room and everyone watching is familiar with the history. So the question is, what do you think is the solution to help out the residents and the patients here at Bayonne, to give them the greatest, bang for their buck at the Bayonne Medical Center, and also, to keep everything moving smoothly so that there's no closure, there's no delay, and certainly no shutdown?
Well, I'm going to need more than 2 minutes for this one. I mean, this is one we should take a long time on, because the hospital, for the past 100 years, has been the city's most precious asset. It's been the #1 employer in Bayonne. It's been the source of quality medical care for the past 100 years. And now it's in jeopardy, serious jeopardy of closing, okay? And the hospital is not a nonprofit, okay? The hospital is still owned by CarePoint, which is a for-profit hospital, okay? As you might recall, because of mismanagement and greed, the hospital went into bankruptcy over a decade ago, and it was bought by CarePoint. CarePoint has been running the hospital for over the past decade. During the Davis-Nadrowski tenure, because of the lack of supervision and guidance on the part of the city, and the city did have the opportunity to provide supervision and guidance via a seat on the Board of Trustees, the owners of CarePoint siphoned $150 million out of the hospital coffers into their own pockets, and in return provided nothing back to the community and nothing back to the hospital. There was no improvements or investments in technology. There was no improvements or investments in services of the hospital. and the hospital became run down and people are seeking medical care elsewhere. In addition, what Jimmy Davis did was roll out the red carpet for the Barnabas facility to set up a satellite emergency department on Broadway, which sucked more of the life out of Bayonne Hospital. So Bayonne Hospital now remains an empty shell of what it used to be, which was providing good quality medical services to the people of Bayonne.
10 seconds. We'll have a healthy back and forth on this. And by the way, just to clarify the point about the nonprofit, that they announced, that ScarePoint Health announced in October they were going to convert to a nonprofit. They haven't actually done it yet.
No, they won't. They can't.
So with that said, Council President, I'm sure you're itching to weigh in on this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with Dr. Brown on that CarePoint's not going to become a nonprofit. That's a ploy that they use, and they have no intention of doing that. And, Dr. Brown, thank you, because you gave a great history on the greed that has left us where we are today. And as you know, I took a public stance against Mayor Davis on this because he wanted to bond $95 million of taxpayers' money, because in their greed, one of the things they did when they were siphoning the money out, Camp Point sold the land on which the hospital sits on. And now another hospital, HRH, has come in and purchased that land. And now CarePoint decides that it wants to stay there with BMC, and they want to run a hospital. But HRH, like any landlord, wants to occupy it and run the business with their own license. And Mayor Davis thinks that the city of Bayonne should bail CarePoint out once again, because we had to do it in the past, with $95 million of taxpayers' money, and then turn the land over to them so they can continue to run a for-profit hospital that's the most expensive. And, like Dr. Brown said, it's the services there have been questionable lately. Not the doctors or the nurses, but the terms of the numbers of services that they're offering. I am fully committed to making sure that there's a fully functional acute care facility in Bayonne. It is absolutely necessary. I just don't think the taxpayers need to foot the bill for it.
All right, Doctor, I know you were just getting started on this, so please proceed. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're sort of, back and forth. I mean, Sharon continued the story, which, she said everything accurately. But the mayor's insane plan to take the hospital by eminent domain, putting up this $95 million bond, would obviously put the taxpayer on the hook if the hospital closed. And it's very possible that the hospital can close. Okay? Why can the hospital close? Because you have competing healthcare systems that have come into this community, which were brought in by the Davis-Nadrowski administration, including Barnabas Jersey City Medical Center. And doctors are defecting from the hospital to those systems, including Atlantic Healthcare System, Meridian Healthcare System, and other systems, which is also sucking the life out of the hospital. The CarePoint people are actually competing against local doctors as well. So the best person, I believe, to sort of guide the city through the process would be somebody who's been on staff there for 25 years, who is an attorney, who knows everything that's going on. And I just don't trust this most important issue to be left, to basically any other candidate. I mean, I guess I sound like I'm blowing my own horn, but I just think this is my issue.
Rightfully so. I don't think it's crazy to say, but yeah, we appreciate a good dialogue on this. I think it deserves, more than just a couple minutes, like you said. Council President, you feel free to weigh in further.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, first off, that, there's all this, I think fear-mongering that was done by Mayor Davis that we have to, bond this money, we have to save the hospital, it's going to close. As a council, one of the things we can do is change laws, and we did. We changed the zoning laws. We zoned that area to be a hospital. It's a hospital zone. So the only thing that can ever exist there is a hospital. So the fear that people were throwing out there that a developer is going to come in and knock it down and build housing or something like that, we prevented that by changing the zoning law. The underlying zoning law says that's an H1 now zone, so it can only ever be a hospital. So, what I'm saying is that we're committed to that. I understand what Dr. Brown's saying, that, CarePoint's here and other doctors in the community. I mean, Barnabas was actually built before our administration. I love to take credit for it because I do think it's a good building there, and I do think the residents deserve to have a choice. But we do need to maintain, and I am fully committed once again to having a fully acute care hospital here in Bayonne.
Would you like to give anything else?
I mean, if the hospital goes bankrupt and closes, you're going to have basically an empty building there that used to be a hospital. So, and that is not out of the realm of possibility. The hospital is in serious financial jeopardy. CarePoint is not even paying rent to HRH for leasing the hospital facility.
Okay. I just like to, I don't want to interrupt, but that is true, and I agree with you. But HRH, who owns the land, they run the hospital in Secaucus. They want to come in and run a hospital here. I don't know who sits on the board. I know you said that a city representative sits on the board there. I'm not sure who it is, and I never was even aware of that. But HRH has committed to coming in here and running the hospital. So there are other options. We're not stuck with CarePoint, and that's my point. I don't understand why we need to subsidize one hospital over another.
All right. You ready for the
I
next
think
one?
you also have to understand the dynamics within the hospital. If certain key doctors leave the hospital, okay, if certain key doctors defect to other hospital systems, like Barnabas Healthcare System, like Atlantic Healthcare System, there's going to be no patients left to go to the hospital, and it doesn't matter who's running it, whether it's HRH or CarePoint or BMC Hospital LLC, you're going to have a hospital on critical care and then a dead hospital. We've got to reverse it. We've got to make sure the right people are in charge and the right people are overseeing what's going on at the hospital. And this is a very, very critical time in the hospital future.
Okay.
Can I just add one note? I just firmly believe that this is a big business problem, right? We have two big companies or entities that are very rich, have a lot of money, and it's a private issue that they're fighting it out amongst themselves. And I don't see that we need to involve taxpayers or in that, and we don't need to put the taxpayers' money on the line. We should let them, risk their own money and fight it out amongst themselves and decide who's going to run that hospital. But the city's role in it is just to make sure that a licensed hospital is operated there, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
All right, I think that was a pretty robust discussion. Are we ready to move on? All right, great. So I'm actually going to give you one out of left field now. Let's talk a little bit about a pay-to-play reform in Bayonne. So as many of you know, and perhaps all of you know, there's actually no local legislation in Bayonne that has restrictions on pay-to-play like they have in Hoboken, like they have in Jersey City, which talks about the parameters in which a contractor could donate, the time frame, how much money they could give. And so they have all the state guidelines, and that's the way they've been operating, as far as I know, is for many decades. So if elected mayor, can you commit to making some sort of reforms on the local level when it comes to pay-to-play? And we'll start with Council President.
Did you say? Oh, sorry, I didn't understand me. Okay. Yes, John, thank you. There's been a lot of talk, we all know, about pay-to-play and PACs and the involvement. And I'm fully committed to that. I mean, we follow the guidelines. If you can look at my elect report, I'm pretty much a homegrown, small donor, Bayonne resident to care kind of donation. Pay-to-play generally, and developers kind of go favor the incumbent, if you will. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that because I think we should not be getting on the planning board or getting on an agenda or getting a deal because we gave a donation to somebody's campaign. So I am fully in favor of that.
Doc, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously, I'm the candidate here that has the least resources in terms of, campaign money. I'm using mostly all of my own money to run whatever shoestring or dental floss campaign that I'm running. If you re-elect Jimmy Davis, you're not going to see any pay-to-play regulations in Bayonne, that's for sure. I mean, we've heard about his dark money being contributed to PACs by developers and supporting his, campaign against his rivals. So, I think if you elect Jimmy Davis, that's a hopeless situation.
All right, sounds like an open and shut case, unless
That's an
anyone
open
has
shut.
anything to add. Seeing none, we'll just keep it moving. So, actually, something that I hear, also talking about Jersey City and Hoboken, a couple of our neighboring cities here in Hudson, they're doing a lot to do, green reforms. They're doing things when they do developments to absorb rainwater, to prevent flooding. They're also doing, in some cases, they're doing the gardens on the roofs of these new buildings, again, to try to alleviate flooding. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about climate change throughout the country. So if we are talking about going green in Bayonne, how would you help facilitate some policies like that if elected? And we'll start with Dr. Brown.
Well, first thing you have to do is look at the budget. I mean, if you look at the budget in Bayonne, 100%. I mean, if you talk about property tax dollars, of course, maybe 40 or so percent goes to the Board of Education, a certain percentage goes to the county, and maybe 40-something% goes to, of the property tax revenue goes to the municipal government of Bayonne. If you look at all the spending in Bayonne, almost 100% of the property tax revenue that goes to the city of Bayonne is spent on municipal payroll. There's no money to do anything else. So what do you have? You don't have a pedestrian bridge across 440 for years. You don't have infrastructure improvements to prevent flooding downtown so people get flooded out. You don't have money for green programs. You're not collecting any kind of extra payments from developers to fund these things. You don't have competent people looking for federal programs to fund these things. I mean, it's just a disaster in City Hall. So you're not going to get these type of things going until you have competency in City Hall. And that's it. That's the bottom line.
Council President, your thoughts?
Yeah, John, I'd like to just address some of that. I do sit there on the planning board. We have made some changes at the council level. We have changed the percentage of pervious coverage, so that means the amount of land that you're allowed to cover with hard surfaces that doesn't absorb water. We made that smaller. You have to keep more of your property if you're doing new development, and even just improvements on your house, you have to keep more of that can absorb water. I do agree. There have been some talks around about, we did the 16 at the Fitzpatrick Park, but I will agree, it's not nearly enough. I'm very disappointed in the First Street Park that's being redone right now. It's going to be beautiful when it's done, but there was a missed opportunity under there, and that was a missed opportunity because dysfunctional government in City Hall, where our public service, municipal services director wasn't talking to our DPW and director and our engineers, and we missed an opportunity to actually put some cisterns under there that would take some of that groundwater and hold it to prevent flooding, because we all know, we know the areas that typically flood along First Street, but any opportunity we have, we should be addressing that, because it always takes it out of the system and is better for all the residents. It helps reduce flooding.
Anything else on this document?
Yeah, I mean, the Nadrowski Davis administration has 8 years to deal with this. It still hasn't been dealt with. These are promises that keep being made every election cycle, and people are being flooded out of their homes downtown. When is it going to stop? When there's change?
I just want to say, I'm on the record as having gone after Suez because they're not doing their part, and we have a contract with them. They weren't keeping our stormwater sewers clean, which leads to flooding. They're not blowing them out, and our city was actually being double charged because we were doing the work. Our DPW, we were also our rates were paying for Suez to do this work. I called for a deep dive into the Suez contract to make sure that they're held accountable for what they're obligated to do in that contract, and a lot of that would help with the issues that you're talking about.
All right, so, I mean, that's as good a segue as any to talk a little bit about the Suez Contract, right? So, as many know, this was something that was adopted by the Smith administration in 2012, multi-billion-dollar, several-decade contract. And, we've heard that if the administration now tries to get out of it, it's going to result in a monumental tax hike, and they're going to have to make up millions of dollars. And, that very well may be true. It is a complicated situation, but I guess the question really is, if elected as mayor, what would you do to try to rectify the Suez Contract situation in the next term? And we can start with Council President.
Thank you, John. I just have to say that, I know this ridiculous number was thrown out there, by Mayor Davis, that I was insane and wanting to get out of that. But, the insanity is a mayor who's sitting there while the people are suffering, having outrageous water bills, over $1,000. Some people's water bill are more than their mortgage. Like, that's just not acceptable. To say that you're going to sit there and do nothing is just not acceptable. You have to think outside of the box. There could come a time where it's too expensive not to do something. You just can't kick the can down the road. And as far as the rate increase, I don't know if the public knows this, but you should know this. Every single time when the rate increase comes up, it's not a foregone conclusion. That rate increase goes to the mayor's office, and Jimmy Davis signs off on it. It gets signed off on Jimmy Davis. He has to put his signature on it. I don't know how much pushback he has. I'm sure he never tried it, but he does have to sign off on that rate increase. And my objective, and one of the things I would do, was actually, we have to go to it's a utility. It's a public utility. We should be lobbying there. They have to keep water affordable. It's just not acceptable. You can't live without it. And holding Suez accountable, it's crazy, but other towns have done it. Other towns have if you don't do nothing, you get nothing. We have to try. It's worth it for the people. And I'm willing to fight for them.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, what's your opinion on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you could try all you want, but a contract is still a contract. So the best way to do things like this is to not get into a bad contract in the first place. You want somebody that knows how to make a good deal, okay? And if you're going to let people make bad deals who are your local politicians, years later you're going to be paying the consequences, okay? My water bill has gone up 3 to 4 times what it was when I came to Bayonne. I had a leaky toilet. I wound up with a $1,000 water bill, okay? So the best way to prevent this from happening is not to make a bad deal in the first place, okay? And the best way not to make a bad deal in the first place is to get somebody in there that's competent to make deals, okay? Obviously, I'm an attorney. I've taken contracts. I've taken advanced contracts. I know what a contract looks like. And I won't get us into any bad deals that are going to cost us years down the road, okay? Now what you're talking about is spending millions of dollars trying to rework a contract, with an entity that really doesn't have to budge. And of course, if you get Jimmy Davis back in there, they're not going to have to budge. So an ounce of prevention is really worth a pound of cure. Don't get into bad deals in the first place.
Thank you. Anything further on this?
No, I can't disagree with that. We were handed a bad deal, probably the worst deal ever. But again, just because we were handed it, it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to, make it more bearable for the people of Bayonne. There are steps we can take. We can also look at other resources. Money we get from developers, we can put other funds towards rate stabilization. It doesn't all have to come from the ratepayers.
Okay, so let's talk about school funding for a moment here, and we'll go back to Doc Brown on this. So when we're talking about school funding, I know some pilot agreements are getting, 3, 5%, 10%, some are getting 0. If elected, how would you make it uniform so that the city is consistently contributing to the Board of Education on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis?
Well, the first thing you have to do is collect the pilot payments. If you don't collect pilot payments from developers, you're not going to be able to collect whatever percentage they've agreed to for the Board of Education fund. And if you continue with the present mayor, I mean, he's going to just promise to the Board of Education money that he doesn't have. We know that the federal government is going to be giving $11 or $12 million to the school system. He's already promised it in pay raises to the teachers. without any idea of how it's going to be allocated once he receives the funding. He doesn't know whether kids are going to need computers. The budget is going to call for improvements in certain schools and things like that. So, I mean, somebody has to go in and work with the Board of Education in a rational way, not make promises they can't keep, make people pay what they're supposed to pay. And if you don't have a change in city government, you're not going to see those things.
Thank you. Council President?
My plan for education, John, is, twofold, right? We can't settle. We have to make sure that our school system gets their fair share of all development plans. But the second part is open communication. And, just by looking up here tonight, we know that Mayor Davis is not one for open communication. Lines of communication, my administration, I would envision regular meetings between the city, and the city would be the mayor and some council members, with the members of the Board of Education and members of the Board of Education and the business administrator. And I would hold public meetings outside. The point of dialogue, we know we're a separate entity and we have separate, rules, and we have our own budgets, but we all want the same thing. We all have the same goal, and the money comes from the same place. But we need to plan. If we sit there and plan and we know what the plan is and what's needed, and we can decide what we can help them with, what they need, and we have real communication, we understand what the plan going forward is, that's the way to resolve issues and understand what the needs are and come up with solutions.
Okay. Doctor, anything more on this?
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds very well and good. I can't disagree with anything. I mean, it's a very rosy aspiration, but if you don't have somebody that's actually going to deal with people and look under the hood, look under contracts, see who's being hired, who's getting the deals, what cronies in city government are getting, paid to get certain contracts, you're really not going to address the real problems that are going on here.
Okay.
That's great. That's the role of the Bayonne Board of Education. As mayor, we don't have any say over the salaries of the teachers or who the school or the teachers hire. That's the Board of Education. Although we would all love to have a say in that, it's just not realistic. It's just far-reaching. It's just out of our jurisdiction. But I just would like to add one other thing. I'm sure everyone out here has received a flyer that came out from Mayor Davis, where he actually attacked me and accused me, put a big red X over me because I wanted to advocate for, building new schools and taking care of our schools. Well, I want everyone here to know that I stand by that. That is a fact. I do want to fix our school system, and I'm okay with that.
Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, schools cost money, and the money has to come from the tax base. And if you don't have, if you keep giving away abatements to developers, and you keep, a city budget that's inflated and has a lot of fat, and you're awarding, contracts to friends, cronies, and developers that are, we have no money to support other programs, you're really not going to have a robust school system or be able to even build schools. So the tax base has to support new schools, and revenue has to be allocated properly.
All right, thank you. So, throughout this campaign cycle, we've heard a lot about City Hall being broken. I mean, Dr. Brown mentioned several times talking about political cronies at City Hall, quote unquote. So when we're talking about cleaning up City Hall, when we're talking about making sure that the municipal employees have a, safe, healthy, respectable, productive work environment, first of all, what exactly do you guys think is wrong today, and how would you fix it if elected? And we'll start with the council president.
John, I think a lot of it just comes down to communication. There's open communication, right? We need to have respect. We need to have technology. So, so I didn't get into my background, but I am, a database engineer. I do cloud development, and City Hall is very manual right now. And with the use of technologies and we could actually make people's jobs easier and make government more responsive to the residents. So empowering the people the same way I talked about empowering, making sure our police officers have the tools to do their job. We need to make sure that, the city workers are equipped to do their jobs, right? So those are in public engagement. We need to make sure that, employees are trained. Sometimes people just get hired and you're thrown at a desk and we have no real training. So we need to, do a better job at that. It's about respect and dialogue and communication.
Thank you. Okay. Doctor, what do you think?
Yeah, certainly communication within City Hall is broken, and communication is an important factor. I mean, there's certainly a lack of transparency and communication with the public that, obviously has been the hallmark of the Davis-Nadrowski administration of the past 8 years. However, the main problem in City Hall is ethical behavior and competency, okay? If you have people behaving unethically, if you have, behaviors that are accepted by the public, you're going to have disorganization, lack of communication, lack of transparency in City Hall. And I don't need to go over what's going on down there, okay? We don't need to go over. We all know about the scandals, and we all know about the low show jobs, and we know about the payments to cronies and the contracts that smell bad, okay? If you don't get some ethics restored and behavior restored to City Hall, there is going to be no communication, and there can be no communication because they'll want to keep everything in the back room and make deals in the back room. So that you will have no communication if there's no transparency, if there's no ethical behavior. We need to restore ethical behavior to City Hall.
And I just want to say, I 100% agree with that, and that's why when I opened, I talked about, our ethics board. The city of Bayonne does have an ethics board, has not met once in the 8 years I was there. It needs to be revived, repurposed, and that's the board that is actually responsible for holding, city employees accountable. And we've had complaints, and that's one of the reasons I'm sitting up here, because they asked to go to the board and they were told there is no board. But there is a board. There is a board in our Constitution, in the City Hall, Bayonne's Constitution. We have a board, and it needs to be revived, and people need to know that they're going to be held accountable. And that is one of the main reasons I'm sitting here today.
Doctor, you want to close out on this one, or good? Okay, so, if candidates doing a great job, audience being great, thank you very much. Excellent cameraman, sound man. So as I mentioned at the top of the debate, I said we take a couple audience questions. So by a show of hands, anyone interested in asking a question tonight? Okay, so gentleman in the Mets hat. Now remember, we want to keep this a policy-based discussion, not why does this person suck or that person suck, whatever. So with that in mind, just go ahead and introduce yourself, and then...
My name is Mark Mazzacol. Mr. Brown, as you say, it's the whole council that votes on things. But when you have a single person voting no and the other one's overruling, it gets passed. And Mr. Davis constantly does this. And as you say, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor. As a Bayonne hospital, you said if you were mayor, you would see that as a lawyer, that nothing went by. You couldn't do that. It's a conflict of interest. You have lawyers to represent the city. So how would you make it better for us? I'd rather go to healthcare. I won't go to Bayonne Hospital. I'll go to St. Barnabas because they treat you wrong.
Well, that's very
My
unfortunate.
family members had gotten the vaccination there, and the city, the government paid for it. And yet, they got charged on their insurance bill for it.
Okay, just as a matter of course, the mayor can have a seat on the Board of Trustees at Bayonne Hospital. That one, the mayor has had a seat or representative seat on the Board of Trustees at Bayonne Hospital. Legally, any member of a Board of Trustees can have access to all financial information of the entity that they're on the board of. Okay, Mayor Davis has made no attempt to provide oversight or guidance or let people know what has gone on in the hospital over the past 8 years. Okay,
I would have never let it get to that point. As a physician on staff, as a citizen in this community, as an attorney, that would have never, ever happened.
Council President, anything on this?
I just want to say that, like I said, I wasn't aware that the mayor had an opportunity. Again, I'm not the mayor, but when I am the mayor, I'll tell you right now that I will have a seat on that board or a representative because I will know what's going on.
All right, thank you. Just going forward, let's ask a question that's open-ended for both candidates. Let's not single out just one of them, all right? Yes, Pat.
Hey, in the beginning, John read a statement from the mayor about going to North Bergen being the best place to hold a debate for this, to be mayor of Bayonne. I just want to know what your take is on that.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I mean,
Thank you, Pat.
I don't know the nuances of, the debate in North Bergen. All I know that it's being sponsored by the NMG Media Group, and North Bergen is where their studio is located. Okay, they don't happen to have a studio in Bayonne. I agreed to participate in it because NMG also is the business that runs the Bayonne Community News and all the local newspaper type of things. So I don't know. I will discuss this with people. If it's not in Bayonne's best interest for me to participate in this debate, and I guess I'll ask what Council President Nadrowski is going to do in terms of this debate. If she's not going to attend that debate, I won't attend that debate either, and we can let Jimmy Davis sit alone. Yeah, but if that's where their physical studio is, where they have their cameras, where they have their equipment, I could understand it being there. I get it. Well, maybe they'll agree to move it here. I don't know.
All right. Well, come on, don't yell it out, guys. You've been great so far.
So I'd just like to say that, as far as the debate in North Bergen in this closed studio that's not open to the public, I'm not opposed to answering questions anywhere, but I don't understand why the mayor's not here. We're in Bayonne. We're all fighting here. We're competing to be the mayor of Bayonne. So this is where we should have our discussions, in the open, in the public. We all know Mayor Jimmy Davis likes to do things in back rooms without public input, but this is about the public. We're here to ask you to support me for mayor, right? I'm asking for your support. I should come to you. I'm perfectly willing to answer your questions, stand before you and tell you why you should elect me to be your next mayor. If Mayor Davis doesn't want to do that, if he doesn't think you're worthy of his time and worthy to be here in public, I can't speak for him.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience interested in asking a question tonight? Yeah, come on, sir. Like I said, try to address it to both candidates, and just do me a favor and introduce yourself.
My name is Pietro Filippone. I live in Bayonne for 30 years. My question is, what are you going to do for schools in MOT? I don't know if you say anything there right now.
Thank you.
So I believe the question was, what are we going to do for schools at the MOT? Right now, they're just part of the regular school district. The Board of Education. Unfortunately, that's an issue that they're going to have to come up with. I think they go to the local schools there, but the main problem with that is the failure of the mayor to actually produce that bridge, because kids have to cross a highway to get to the school, and if their parents aren't driving them, they're crossing a highway. That's the real concern about what's going on over there.
Thank you. And Doctor, your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the type of development you're approving down there. If you're approving development for families, and you're expecting it's going to necessitate building a school down there, eventually you're going to have to put a school down there.
But if you're giving people 30-year tax abatements, how do you afford to put a school down there? So, we have to look at the type of abatements we're giving in terms of what type of development is going on. And the Davis administration has not put any thought into that whatsoever. So going forward, we really have to look into that.
All right, great. I think I saw one other hand. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself and then address both candidates with a question.
I'm April Patterson, and my question is, what are you going to do about the homeless people in Bayonne? We have all these empty schools. Why can't you put a shelter?
Much appreciated. Doc, we can start with you this time.
Yeah, I think we touched on this issue of affordable housing. Like we mentioned before, developers should be made to contribute to an affordable housing fund. The city budget should be realigned to create space for money for shelters and affordable housing for people. Okay? What's been going on over the past 8 years has been total dereliction in terms of providing affordable housing for people in this community, and you've seen it on the streets with increasing homeless people. That's got to be stopped. I don't believe it'll be stopped by anybody who's in this current administration. They've been promising it for 8 years. They haven't delivered.
Thank you. Council President?
Yeah, like I said before in my open, that's one of the quality of life issues here in Bayonne. We have to address the underlying issues, and socioeconomic and homelessness and lack of housing is definitely one of them. We have to partner with the nonprofits, with federal funding and state fundings, and we have to address these issues. And that comes from, lobbying. We have to work with our partners at the state and federal level and get it done. It's, they're part of our community too, and we need to take care of them.
All right, great. Was there anyone else in the audience that wanted to ask one? Sure. How are you, Patrick? Introduce yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, I'm Patrick McManus. I've lived in Bayonne for about 34 years. I'm wondering, what are your platforms on the crime in the city? Like, how are we going to attract or able to get more officers? I mean, more officers has been an issue, I think, around the state or even around the country. We won't get into that, but how are we going to afford to get more officers or get more officers? And would you be opposed to, or would the police officers or the police department be opposed to Class 1 or Class 2 specials coming on because of the staffing issues and, the crime? Because just a little background on me, we moved to Bayonne from New York City. It was in Washington Heights, New York, where I lived across the street from a crack house. So we found Bayonne because of the low crime, and this was the late 80s, early 90s. So the reason we came to Bayonne is because of the low crime, and because you even had, cops doing checkpoints in Jersey City and City Line. I mean, that was something that this town was very close-knit and very tight and very safe being so close to Jersey City. So I want to know how we're going to get back to something like that.
Thanks, Pat. All right, so yeah, a very in-depth question, but in short, I believe his question was, what are you going to do to recruit more police officers going forward, special and regular police? I think Council President, it's your turn to start.
John, as council president, we have funded the police at every turn. Every time the public safety director came down and asked, we found a way to get it done. There are safer grants out there in federal funding that help support the hiring of these cops. Honestly, Pat, I never really thought of or about using Class 1 or specials in the city. Honestly, I'd have to defer to our police chief, but certainly and public safety director. It's a conversation that can be had. We always got to think outside the box. I'm always willing to think outside the box, and if it's going to help our community and it's something that's doable, and like I said, that the police really fall under the jurisdiction and the guidance of the AG and the prosecutor and the chief of police. But we always had a close relationship and worked together, and I'm certainly willing to do that.
Excellent. And Doctor, your take on the hiring of police?
In the first place, we've been promised community policing by the Davis-Nadrowski team for 8 years now. We haven't seen community policing. Just as a fact, Bayonne has the most spending of any municipality on police anywhere in the country. Okay, we spend more on police than anybody. Okay, so more police is not the answer. It's with the way the police are distributed in this town and how they're policing. Okay, I mean, I have a law enforcement family. I mean, and I know people in law enforcement. You're supposed to have 8 patrolmen for every sergeant. You're supposed to have 4 sergeants for each lieutenant. You're supposed to have 1 captain for every 4 lieutenants. We have, in a town of 60,000 people, you should probably have just 3 or 4 captains. I think we have 15 or 16 of them. Okay, we have a top-heavy police department. There are more chiefs than Indians. It's a matter of how the department is deployed and used. Okay, we spend more money on in this town than any other municipality, and that's a fact. And you can look it up.
Council President, anything further?
I'd just like to just say that, I think our police force, does a great job. I defer to the experts in the law enforcement on what the necessary numbers are, but I will tell you that, I'd rather cut other places than cut in public safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I think more people have died crossing Route 440 than have died from crime and fire in this town. I think we need to, I believe in the police and fire department. I think we need to realign certain things so that we get more police on the street fighting crime. And, we could do more in public safety, for sure, with what we have.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so with that, I think we've heard, a wide breadth of topics tonight, so I think this is as good a time as any to let you guys close us out. And so we'll give you 2 minutes each. And I believe Dr. Brown started, right? Yeah, so let's say that. And we'll let the council president go first, and then you could, you go first, we'll let the council president close out.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming again. It's obvious that the mayor doesn't feel it's important to let the city, the people of the city know what his positions are on certain things. Perhaps he's not able to answer certain questions or doesn't want to answer certain questions. I think we really need a change, okay? We need to change who's running our municipal government. I think the mayor and the city council president have had their turn over the past 8 years. We've seen no improvement in the city. Development comes to the city. It's the responsibility of the mayor and the city council to make sure there's responsible development. The development that occurs here benefits the people of Bayonne, and we haven't seen that. The quality of life in this city is terrible. If you go down Broadway, there's no places to shop. Bayonne is blighted with empty storefronts. I just saw today the poor guy that opened the pretzel factory on Broadway closed down. And then there was a little discount store next to it that also closed down. What has the city council and the mayor done to promote businesses? What has the city council and the mayor done to bring the heart of Bayonne, which is on Broadway, back to life? Absolutely nothing. All there's been is development on the outskirts of the city, big box stores, warehouses, other types of development that have increased traffic. We've seen shady deals. We've seen, low show jobs for friends and family and cronies.
10 seconds.
We've seen other contracts. We need to restore integrity of City Hall. We need to bring back the heart of Bayonne, which is in the middle of our town. We're not going to do it without making a change.
Thank you very much. And Council President?
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for, putting this together. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for showing up. Thank you to everyone who came out. This is an important election coming up. The next 4 years, a lot of decisions have to be made, and, we need to move Bayonne forward. And like I said, I am running because, Bayonne needs change. City Hall is broken. We need to restore the trust in government. We need to restore the pride in Bayonne. I laid out a number of issues here tonight on my plan for crime, my plan for bringing back, quality of life issues, the potholes, the trash, the feeling safe in our communities, plans for what we should do with our schools, development, how do we get more out of it. So I encourage you all, I am totally about communication. That is one of the pivotal points of my campaign. It has been open public meeting, and that will continue through my mayor time. And I would just say that I encourage you all, if you want to learn more, all the plans that I talked about tonight, I've actually laid out a detailed plan called Solution Sundays on my website, SharonForBayonne.com. You can go out there. There is a phone number. And if you call it, yes, I really do answer it. I call people back because if I'm asking for you to put your trust in me and vote for me so I can fix Bayonne together with you, I will certainly give you the time and talk to you directly and answer any questions you have. So again, thank you, and I ask for your support on May 10th. And remember, May 10th, Election Day, make sure everyone gets out there and vote because this is important. This is about Bayonne's future.
All right, just a quick close. First of all, just one more round of applause for Dr. Mitchell Brown, Council President Sharon Ashe-Nadrowski. Again, they took valuable time out of their campaign schedule. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, everyone, for watching at home. We actually had over 100 viewers on Facebook tonight, so that's a pretty good night. Thank you to the Bayonne Board of Education. Thank you to my friend Dan and colleague. We couldn't do it without him. And with that, I just realized I didn't really give myself a proper intro. I think you all know me, but I'm John Heides from the Hudson County View, and I'll just close with this. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. That's why you need me, and I need you. Have a great night.